Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, scientists, educators, social scientists, government leaders, politicians. All will be one to one. Each year, thousands of teenagers leave their homes, maybe because they're looking for adventure or escaping abusive households, or are lost souls seeking the warmth of family. Each day, hundreds of them find their solace at Covenant House, New York. I'm pleased Simone Thompson, the Director of Operations of Covenant House, New York, joins us to tell us about the programs Covenant House offers. Welcome.
Thank you.
You've been with Covenant House for more than 15 years, a period of ups and downs for the organizations. Tell us about some of those and why you have stayed there.
Well, when I started at Covenant House, I was a 23-year-old worker fresh out of college. And this was brand new for me to see people who weren't much younger than me at the time who were like homeless. I graduated with my college degree and I went home for a year with a bachelor's degree in my hand. Most of these kids haven't graduated high school, have dropped out with 8th and 9th grade reading level. It just seemed like it's what I was meant to do when I got there. It really did.
Is the organization, I have you sort of followed Covenant House over the years, from the Bruce Ritter days to the aftermath, is the organization still feeling the effects of that whole Bruce Ritter scandal, or is that no longer a factor? Is that way behind you?
I think that's way behind us. That's no longer a factor.
Mm-hmm. When Covenant House was founded, it was described in the press primarily as a place that served runaways. And the template was, the white kid from the suburbs, middle-class kid from the suburbs who wound up in the city and sometimes having to sell his or her body on the street to get by. It turned out that characterization was never, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but as a whole, that characterization was not really accurate. So describe your population. Who are the people that you serve, and how has that changed?
The people that we serve in Covenant House, New York, are kids from the 5 boroughs of New York City. I would say 90+% are coming from the poor neighborhoods of Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, and Manhattan. They are kids who are coming from very poor environment in terms of economic situations for the family. They're kids who've aged out of foster care. They're kids who have maybe not been in foster care but been in very abusive situations, and now they're 18, they decided to leave, or they were asked to leave. Mm-hmm. But they generally are urban kids coming from New York City.
Are they overwhelmingly Black, Latino, or is it a mix?
It's overwhelmingly Black and Latino kids. It's probably 30% Latino, 45% African American, mm-hmm. and a mixture of mm-hmm. the rest. Yeah.
Covenant House, I understand, was fortunate to have substantial real estate holdings on 41st Street in the Meatpacking District, now the site of the Maritime Hotel. Who was smart enough to invest in that?
That property no longer belongs to Covenant House. With the market being what it is these days in New York, that property was sold and that money is being put back into the programs. Mm-hmm. The property that we still have is where the Crisis Center is located at 460 West 41st Street, and where our mother-child facility is located right. on West 52nd Street.
Right. But it was a smart move to buy that because you got a lot of money for it.
Well, that happened before my time.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it was just sold in the last 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through the process of what happens when a teenager walks through the door at Covenant House.
Basically, when you walk through the door of Covenant House, 41st Street is right by the Lincoln Tunnel. The entrance to Covenant House is right down the street from the Port Authority bus station. So a young person will come in and just request shelter. The only criteria for entry is age. We serve under 21. So regardless of what brings them to us, whether they were kicked out of the home, aged out of foster care, sometimes coming out of jail, hospitals, you name it, in New York City, other agencies and government agencies know that if you're under 21, Covenant House is the place for you. So they'll come in and request shelter, and basically we welcome them.
Are there any circumstances in which you will not accept somebody?
Not on first time entry. Any young person who comes to us under 21 will be accepted. Now, if a young person comes to us and it's clearly not suitable for them, in other words, they need 24-hour supervision, they don't have a capacity to take care of themselves, we're going to try to get them out very quickly. But if it's a young person who's, could function on their own, could shower, could care for their personal hygiene, we will accept them.
Now, are there the issues that bring them to you, have those changed in the last 15 years that you've been there? Or are they pretty much the same?
I mean, they're pretty much the same. They're kids who are poor who can't afford to make it on their own. They're kids who no longer have the resources that was once afforded to them through foster care. They're kids whose family don't have the resources to care for them, or kids who are just coming from plain abuse. I think, I know before my time, back in the late 80s, or maybe 91, 89, they had an AIDS unit because the number of kids who came in with that particular issue was so significantly high. That percentage is very low at the moment. But the issue that bring them to us is it stayed the same.
So how long can a young person stay with you?
We have a short-term crisis shelter, and that's when they first enter our doors. And those kids, we're trying to get them out in 30 to 60 days to get them into something, to get them out of the crisis that they're in. We also have a long-term program, Rites of Passage, which is a transitional living program. And in that program, the young people stay with us as long as a year and a half, 2 years. And as some of them get it together in 8 months. They come in with a job, save, and is able to access public housing pretty quickly, and they leave in about 8 months. But anywhere from 8 months to 18 months is the longest. The rest are short-term, getting them off the subway, getting them off the street, short-term shelter.
Now, where do you, with kids, with being open to anybody who comes in, where do you put them for 30 days? I mean, where do you?
We have 300 plus beds at Covenant House. We have enough beds for the young people that are coming to us. We've never had to turn anyone away. In the mid-90s, I remember when we didn't have as many beds, we used to put mats out in the lounge, but we never turned anyone away. But we've recently undergone some renovation, a capital campaign, and we've rehabbed the facility, so we have the beds for the kids that are coming to us.
So Rites of Passage is basically a year or more in which we help you get yourself together so you can be self-sustaining?
Yeah, we help you get a job, we help you access a training program, certified nurse's aide, computer skill, culinary arts. We have a security guard training, or even other trainings we don't offer but are available to them through various programs in the city. We'll help them get skilled training so they can find a job, and hopefully help them to learn the skills they need to keep that job in the time that they're with us. Sometimes they may go through 2, 3, 4 jobs while they're with us, and hopefully they're making the mistakes while they're with us, so when they move out, they could maintain employment.
In a city where the cost of housing is so high, how do they find housing that they can afford?
Many times we tell them to do the things that a lot of us did when we were younger and fresh out of college. Get a roommate. 2 or 3 of you get together and you may be able to afford rent. We encourage them to apply for New York City public housing. That's usually more affordable. And many of them will end up moving back to some of the neighborhoods they came from, which are not as expensive. So we'll encourage them to start applying and looking while they're with us.
Do you work with the foster care program? Is that a collaborative effort, or is it not?
The way it turns out is the kids will just show up at our door, and then we'll find out that they had been in foster care. They were recently discharged or may have left their placement. So I wouldn't say we have this collaborative relationship in a formal way,
right?
But even they know that this is where the kids are going to end up if they leave.
So this whole issue of aging out, and I've written in the past about aging out of foster care, and kids age out and they basically are just out there. Is that a real problem?
Yes, it's a real problem. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a caseworker. The agency is refusing to place this young man. I'm like, how old is he? He's turning 18 in 30 days. And he's obviously being a difficult kid. At 17, most kids are. And, you know, refusing to work with a kid who you know is not able to care for themselves, it's a major problem. It's a major problem for us that 30% plus of the kids who come through our door on a yearly basis are kids who are former foster care kids. That tells me somebody is not adequately planning for these kids.
Yeah. You have programs for young mothers and, you know, pregnant teens. Tell me about those.
We have a mother-child facility, and young women who come in with their infants are allowed the same services as the single adults, with the exception of they get a little bit more because we have a daycare center for the children. So we'll work on helping them get transitional living program, helping them apply for whatever entitlements they may be eligible for, helping them get health care for themselves and their children. We also have a medical clinic, and what they do is every kid that comes to us, we attempt to get them all a thorough physical, and we attempt to help them to access Medicaid. So with the young mothers, the services are the same. We're helping them find a job, we're helping them get training, and we have beds for them in the long-term program as well.
We're going to take a break. I'll be back with more with Simone Thompson, Director of Operations of Covenant House, New York, after this message.
These things we count on every day started as ideas. Ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Simone Thompson, Director of Operations of Covenant House, New York. Have you found that a lot of kids really would like to reconnect with their parents but are too embarrassed to do so?
I mean, it's normal. I think any 19, I'm 38 years old, and I can't imagine not having a connection with my parents. They want what everyone else wants. I think they just come with baggages that we sometimes don't understand. Yesterday I spoke with a young woman who's been in care since she was 3. And she
been in foster care since she was 3?
Been in foster care. She said she's been in 6 or 7 placements. She couldn't remember. And when she was 16, I guess she demanded to find out why she was initially taken from her mother. And it turns out it was alcoholism. Her mother had a problem. And it's just, and even having been in care since she was 3 and not really living with her mother, you could still see that she's like, if only she could tell me the truth, if only she could talk to me. She still yearns for that. Everybody does. They want to connect with their families.
And you affect reunions, correct?
We try. We try when the situation is appropriate. And sometimes with the younger kids who come to us, the ones under 18, if there's not abuse or abandonment in the home, we're going to get a family meeting and get that parent to come in. If it's an unsafe situation for the child, we won't attempt. But if they're saying it's just, I'm not getting along, the rules are too rigid, we're going to try to get them to return home. They want to.
You talk about the young woman who had been in foster care since she was 3, and I hear these stories about people who've been in like 10, 12, 15, 30 different foster care arrangements. How can that happen? How does it happen that somebody just gets bounced around that much?
And I think the piece like that the young lady said to me yesterday, that I think most of the kids who've gone through so many of those homes, you'll hear them say, they don't get to have significant connection. She's like, each time I got close to a foster parent, I got moved.
But why does one get moved?
It seems to me that sometimes it's too many kids in a home, in the foster homes, in certain homes, especially once they get older, the older kids. Not adequate work to a kid who enters at 3. I don't see why that kid shouldn't have been put up for adoption if returning home wasn't an option. I think more work needs to be done, either to reunite these kids with their family, put preventative services in place when these kids are young so they could be reunited with their families, or putting a more aggressive plan together to get them permanent housing with a family who wants to adopt. It's very rare that you're going to get a 16 or 15-year-old adopted, but a kid who's been in care since they were 3 years old.
No excuse.
No excuse.
Yeah, yeah. Where does Covenant House get its money from?
Most of the money we get is through private individuals, direct mail. We get 70+% from private individual in our direct mail campaign, and we get about 26% from government. Most of that is from HUD for the long-term program, and we do have some money from the city.
Okay, but you're not supported by the Catholic Church financially, even though...
We're not. We're affiliated, an affiliated organization, but we're not a member of. We don't get support from the Catholic Church, no.
There are many other Covenant House communities in around the country and around the world. You know, I teach journalism at Queens College, and I was showing my kids a film, and it was about a young boy who grew up basically at a Covenant House in Guatemala and before coming over here and going to war in Iraq. How did all of these other Covenant houses come about?
Believe it or not, I mean, I work for a local site. I work for New York, but I know that the international headquarters get quite a bit of requests every year from places asking them to open up new Covenant houses. It's usually a city that has a homeless population, that has kids on the street, that it's usually the government, actually local churches. It's usually other social service agencies that know we've been doing this that request that Covenant House come in. In Atlanta, one of the newer programs, I know it was the local archdiocese there that asked. In Philadelphia, same thing. So it's usually a request. I know we get a lot more requests than we've been able to.
And when you have them, what happens? Does somebody go out from a central body to organize that Covenant House?
There's a senior VP for program development in the corporate headquarters, and he's usually the one that answers to, that gets these calls. But financially, over the last couple of years, we haven't opened too many new Covenant House. They're very expensive, running 24 hours.
How many of them are there all? Do you know? How many
21. Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Vancouver, and Toronto are the international, and the others are in the United States.
Okay. There's so much talk about, the immigrant, the illegal immigrant, and just the immigrant issue. Do you find that you're seeing more immigrant young people coming to your doors or not?
I don't know if it's more, but we've always gotten a fair amount of undocumented immigrant kids. And, speaking of the foster care issue, that's a particularly sad thing when you meet a young person who's been in foster care, who was born in another country, and there's a system there set up to help that kid get legal status. And if that paperwork is not filed by the time they turn 18, it becomes an impossible task to get.
Really?
Them. Yeah, it needs to be. There's laws that allow foster care ACS to file documents to get an immigrant child their green card, but that paperwork have to be filed before they turn 18.
And if it isn't, what happens?
They're just another illegal immigrant.
Really?
And many times you'll come across some of these kids who they don't have any connection to the country that they came from. They don't even speak the language. I've come across a kid from Haiti who's been here since she was a couple of months old. She doesn't speak the language.
They got to get in line.
They got to get in line or risk getting deportation. I mean, so it really, if we could get the folks who created these laws and the folks running foster care agencies to understand what a significant thing it is to help this kid get legal status. A lot of times the kids don't find out till they're ready to look for a job.
Wow,
and we start looking to get their documents together, and we realize you can't get a job.
That's a real failure on the part of foster care system.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is a downturn in the economy affecting your intake or your financial support?
Financial support, yes. Direct mail over the last 10 years have had its ups and downs. We saw a huge downturn during 9/11, which is understandable. People were giving to other causes. Then it settled, and again, we're starting to see a drop in the direct mail. And you have a lot more nonprofits doing direct mail marketing. So of course, you know, that affects what we're getting in.
Are there some kids who come in who you find are beyond your help?
I wouldn't say they're beyond our help. We do get young people who have significant mental health issues, and we may not be able to help them long term, but we could start the process for them. We have a mental health day program that will help them get medication, getting stabilized on medicine. We'll do workshop with them to get them to understand what their mental illness is. So those kids we can't help long term, but we could get the process started for them to get supportive health housing through the city.
Who or what is your proudest achievement, both personally and at Covenant House?
You know, about a couple weeks ago, 2 kids stopped by who I worked with over 10 years ago. One has now decided to be a mentor to another young mom in the program. They must have left 10, 11 years ago, and another one is working in Dallas, doing very well for herself. So when I see those kids, which we know they're out there, but we don't see them that often because, you know, they want to move on. They want this chapter behind them, and we understand. But when I see that, it makes me really proud. I know that what we're doing is making a difference in the life of a lot of young people. I definitely... I'm glad I was here long enough to see those types of successes.
What do you see as the future for Covenant House? And I'll ask you a really small question. What do you see as the future for Covenant House, New York, and the children that you save?
I know this is kind of a cliche, but you know, you wish there wasn't a need in the future for Covenant House. You know, you really do. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that a country as wealthy as ours have this many kids who are homeless. We often see on TV these videos from third world countries and war-torn countries, and we see kids living on the street and homeless. We have that going on right here in New York City. Kids who are riding the subway for 2 or 3 days at a time with no place to call home. What do I see for Covenant House in the future? I'm hoping that we don't need to exist, but I know we will. So hopefully we'll continue to get the kind of financial support that we need to provide the services that are missing for these young people.
So are the number of young people up or about the same, down, or about the same?
It's about the same. It's about the same. On any given year, over the last 15 years I've been here, on any given year it's anywhere from 3,500 to 4,500 just in the shelter. These are not the kids that we're helping in the neighborhood. We have community programs that are in the neighborhoods that a lot of these kids are coming from, so we do provide some preventative services there, but just in the homeless shelter we're seeing 3,500 to 4,500 a year. So the numbers are significant.
Fairly consistent.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, but we're out of time. But I want to thank Simone Thompson, Director of Operations of Covenant House, New York, for joining us. For the City University of New York and 1 to 1, I'm Sheryl McCarthy.